So recently, I talked about the profits and costs of running the hidden 20 times. And at the end of that video, I said that I was probably going to do a few more sets of various bossing things. And it's important to remember that when it comes to bossing, the more samples you have, the more consistent your money is. The potential exception to this is when you're running the Forgotten, which is the synthesized map invitation. The reason that sample size doesn't necessarily matter as much here is there is so much variance that you can get a mirror base or you can get absolutely nothing, and that could happen within 100 runs or potentially 1,000. I'm sure there is a number at which you can determine, okay, this is the consistent profits, but because the top end is more absurd than pretty much anything in the game, it's kind of like fishing for mirror drops and hoping that you get one. And so I went fishing 10 times. To be exact, I bought 10 full sets, which is 40 maps, and 10 times the Forgotten. I ran all of the Forgottens at incredibly high quant, around 200%. And here's what I got. Of all the circle rings, there was a single Circle of Guilt with buff effect and increased phys damage, which was worth around an Exalt. There were roughly 35 circle rings, and all the rest were vendor trash. I also got 3 Awakened gems, 2 of which were vendor trash, and 1 of which was a Swift Affliction that I sold for 38 chaos. My rough cutoff point here is I'm vendoring anything below 30C. At least unless it's something that's easy to sell in bulk, which unfortunately Awakened gems just aren't. I got a Perepetia, I think that's how you say it, which was worth about 50C. All the masks of the Tribunal ended up going straight into the vendor. I got 2 Elder Boss maps, 4 Orbs of Conflict, 19 Orbs of Unmaking, and 4 of the Disdain cards. I also got 9.5 Maven's Writs out of 10 total Maven's Invitations, which added around 5.7 Exalts in value. This whole thing took about 2.5 hours to run. The problem is, price checking all the synthesized items afterwards, as I had nearly a full quad tab of stuff worth considering, took another half hour or so. I did it relatively quickly because, again, if something wasn't worth at least 30C, I was just throwing it out. Unfortunately, I feel like if you really want to profit off of this, you're going to have to be very patient, you're going to have to probably do way more than I did, and you're probably going to have to make trades below 30C. What are some of the highlights that I got in terms of synthesized items? I got an Explody two-handed axe, which is worth about 50, an Imperial Claw with increased physical damage, which was also worth about 50C. I then got a crit Multi Imbued Wand, which I would say is worth an Exalt or a little less, a +1 socketed support Citadel bow. If it had been on a good base, this would have been pretty valuable, but instead it's about 100 chaos, a 13 to 15% increased Dex Amulet, which is about an Exalt, and a 2 to 4 cold damage per 10 Dex Thicket bow, which is about 2 Exalts. These were all the pretty good stuff. The one thing that was pretty amazing, or at least amazing in terms of the value for a random synthesized item, was an Explody wand worth about 10 Exalts. That's right, I only got one really big hit item out of 40 or so total maps. I've decided that the next time I do this, I'm going to take it up a notch, and I'm going to do a bunch of feared sets. I'm not entirely sure how many feared sets I'll be doing, as it depends on how much money I have left over after finishing off the last couple parts of my build. But I'm going to be doing that, so if that interests you at all, then be sure to sub to the channel and ring the bell to be notified whenever I upload. On the other hand, if you want to see more content, check out my second channel, 10 Gaming Thoughts, which will be down in the description and in the card right now. On the other hand, if you've been enjoying this video, leave a like, as that's a great way to help me out with the YouTube algorithm. And finally, a special thanks to my patrons and YouTube channel members for their continued support, but more about that at the end. For now, let's start looking into the is it worth it factor. And big caveat here. The is it worth it factor on this video is far more subjective than a lot of the videos in the past, because you can get a synth base that's worth 90, 100, or even 1,000 Exalted Orbs. There are some things that are so rare that you won't really see them outside of Standard, and if you happen to hit them, you'll have a literal army of mirror crafters who are all waiting to give you as much money as you ask, since they won't be able to get it any other way. So the top end for this is truly insane, but the bottom end is pretty poor. And due to the fact that this is incredibly high variance. As I mentioned at the beginning, kind of like fishing for mirrors, I don't think this was very worth it. I spent around 11.4x to run all of these. And I got back around 23.6x, assuming everything sells, or let's just say 16x, assuming the easy to sell things sell and everything else just rots, which is entirely possible. It took me around 3 hours, and that's not really great profit per hour. In fact, counting selling time, I'd say it's probably closer to 3.5 hours, which means you're looking at 3.5x an hour. You can run Scour and Go Essence maps and make more money than that quite easily. So on the one hand, if you're looking for a consistent boss farming strategy, I don't think this is worth it to just buy a set of 10 or 20 maps. On the other hand, if you're looking for this to be your entire league strategy, then I think it could very well pay off. You'll get access to a lot of things like +1 charge rings, which tend to sell well and appreciate in value as the league goes on. You get access to Explody weapons. And you get access to a lot of other niche things. If you're going to do this, pay a close eye to what YouTubers and Twitch streamers are playing. The minute that one of them uses a synthesized item in their build, well, then make sure to keep an eye out for it, and ideally you want to have a lot of extra storage space. I think the key to success with this strategy is, in fact, storage space, because you can get those multi-synth items occasionally. You might get something like a bow with +1 to level of socketed gems and +1 arrow. Or maybe you get a quiver with +1 arrow crit multi. Maybe you get a ring with +1 power charge and crit multi. Are these things likely? No, absolutely not. But do they happen occasionally? Yes. And this is the incredible payoff at the end of a rainbow. Now, in terms of your odds of seeing any of these things, I actually feel like your odds of dropping a Mage Blood on the floor might be better than your odds of seeing one of these double synth items that are truly incredible and sell for pretty much as much as you want. But on the other hand, will you see things like an Explody weapon, a +1 supports bow, maybe a + charge ring, or any of the other really good hits that can be multiple to dozens of exalts? Yes, it feels pretty common to see some of those items. Before this, I did maybe another 5 hidden sets, and I remember getting an Explody staff, which was worth quite a bit, and a +1 maximum frenzy charge shield. In this dataset, I got an Explody wand and a +1 supports bow, along with a increased dex amulet, which could have been worth a lot more if it was an increased int amulet. So I do think this could be a profitable strategy. Personally, I wouldn't suggest it to most people though, unless again, you're willing to do hundreds, if not thousands of maps over the course of the entire league. And if you do it, do keep in mind that your profits will feel very inconsistent. But I'm curious, what's the best synthesized item that you've ever gotten? Or what's the coolest synth item that you've ever used as part of your build? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and look forward to my video talking about farming the Feared. A special thanks to my patrons and YouTube channel members. Your support helps keep me independent and allows me to turn down things like sketchy mobile game sponsorships. You can do so for as low as $1 a month over on Patreon, or if you want to support me completely for free, then you can join the community by hopping into my Discord, link below. If you want more content, check out my second channel, 10 Gaming Thoughts. It's a place that I use to review games, ramble my way through video essays, and a lot more. Or of course, you can just click the suggested video in the card right now. I hope you learned something today, and maybe I'll see you again sometime soon.